All right, welcome to the exam 4 review. It's going to be very close to exam 3. Similar setup with the only additional content being the options that we didn't cover last time. So chapters 1 through 15 and 19, that was commodities, was on exam 3. Exam 4, we added options. So you've done most of the content, will stay cumulative as always, but with the focus on the more recent content. So very, very similar to exam 3. If you are planning to take the final, I would suggest that you come and look at your exam 3 beforehand to study. So yeah, same setup. And I'm going to jump to the newest material. And then we can talk about whatever you want. Okay, so options, we have call options and put options. Big picture, an option is the right to buy, that's the call, or sell, that's the put. Whatever the underlying asset is, typically a stock, could be a mutual fund, at a specified price, which we call the strike price, during a specified time frame. You can do these for the next week, for the next month, or whatever. We looked at option chains in the class, and you saw how we could jump into January or February, or whenever we wanted to figure out what those different pricings would happen. There's more risk of prices changing over the long term, which makes it more likely you would be able to exercise your option at some point. But we have no crystal ball. We don't know if that stock will ever go up in value if we're talking about a call option. And the premium that we pay is going to be based on the value of the underlying asset. Unlike commodities, we don't actually have to exercise this option ever. We can just let it expire. We lose our premium, and that's it. That is the most that you can lose with a call option. I bought a call option, I paid that premium. The most I can lose is the premium that I paid. If it does hit my strike price, I exercise my option in hopes it'll go up. What I've done is I've limited my potential loss to just the cost of the premium. That's gone. Whether I exercise this option or not, whoever sold me the option, the writer, they keep that premium. If it goes to the strike price, cool, I exercise it as long as that happens within the time period, and I now own the stock. So I have the option to buy at a specified price, so I'm at my premium plus that agreed upon strike price. So I'm paying that per share. If I don't want to do that, I can sell my options. So I pay the premium, there's the right, there's this contract to buy this specific stock, let's say at $50, and it's gone up to 60. I don't have the cash and I don't want to mess with exercising 3 options and then using that to buy, so I can selling 3 of the options and taking the cash for the value of the option itself, and then using those dollars to exercise additional options. So I could kind of get some money into my account by initially selling just the option, so somebody else has the right to buy the stock. They pay me some money for whatever the value of the option is. It's already in the money, so we know it's worth more than what I paid for it when it was a risk. Now I can take those dollars and use those to buy some of the stock at the option price. So I can do it 3 different ways, let's say. I can 100% exercise my option by buying all of that stock at the agreed upon strike price, or I say I don't have enough to do it all, I want to do a mix. So I sell some of the options to somebody else so they can exercise it and buy it at that price, or they can sell it to somebody else. These options can be sold as many times as you want. And then I put the remaining amount towards myself. I exercise those for myself and I buy the underlying stock. Or the third way, where I just sell the option off to somebody else. So I never exercise it, I just sell it for the value of that premium. So the price of the option, that premium, that fluctuates over time. That's going to go up or down depending on what the underlying stock is going to do. So it may have not even met the exercise price. Let's go back to that $50 example. My strike price is $50. I have paid $1 per share to exercise this, to potentially exercise this option. So $1 per share was my premium, and right now the price per share has gone up from when I first did this at $40, it's at $45. So closer to $50, my exercise price. My option is now worth more than $1 per share because it's based on the underlying asset. It's closer to being in the money. So I can sell it for more than $1 per share before it even hits the strike price. So I'll have made my money back that way. If it's gone down, nobody's gonna want it, or if they do buy it, they're gonna pay less than the $1 per share that I bought. So let's say instead of going up to $45, it dropped from, when I first bought this option, it was selling for $40, it's dropped to $30. People are probably not going to expect it to jump up to $50. Longer time frame maybe, but if it has to happen in the next week, it's very unlikely. So I can try to sell it in the open market to somebody who thinks that's gonna happen, but I'm gonna have to lose money on this. If anything, maybe they're paying a penny per share to be able to potentially do this. They're just taking a risk. And I'm able to get a little bit of my money back. So the option itself is worth money. I can go in the open market and, depending on what I've got, how close it is to that strike price, if it's in the money, if it's out of the money, that's gonna dictate how much I can sell it for. Maybe nobody's interested in it because it's tanked. Companies declared bankruptcy, it's just not coming back. Different things can happen where I'm not able to find somebody willing to buy it, but I have the right to do whatever I want with that option. If somebody is willing to buy it, I can sell it. Whether it's less than I paid for it or more, I can do that. Or I exercise it myself and buy the underlying stock. And we have those three ways that we could go about that towards the end. With the American options, that within a specified time period is important because I could exercise it the day after I bought it, or 3 days, or 5, or whatever. If my specified time period is 3 months, I've got the full 3 months to exercise or not at any time. Once that final date hits, so let's say February 7th is the day this option expires. Once it expires, it's gone. There's nothing I can sell, the asset just disappears. So I have to, before that date, do something with it. If it lapses, if I just didn't have a market out there, cool, it's lapsed, it's gone. I've lost that premium. No matter what, that premium is gone. But my ability to sell something only exists if that something exists. It does not exist once the time period expires. With European options, I would have to wait until the specific date I was looking at to exercise. Where with the American, I could do it within, I could do it, an hour after I bought it or whatever. So going into those call versus puts, call, if I buy a call option, I have purchased the right to buy from you this specific stock at a specific price within the next, let's say 30 days. So whatever I put it for, like by this specific date, I have the right to buy it for this price per share. A put option, let's say I own the stock, I am going to buy from you this option where I can force you to purchase my stock at this whatever price. I'm probably gonna put it at, let's go back to our stock that right now is selling for $45. Let's say I'm worried that it might drop in value. I own this stock and I want to protect my investment. So I'm using this as a way to protect myself. I'm paying a premium for that, and now somebody else is forced to pay to buy the stock at the end of the time period. So I've got that ability. If it drops in price, somebody now has to buy my stock for more than it's dropped. So I'm protecting my potential loss. I still lose out on the premium, that's gone no matter what, but if the stock that I own is going to drop drastically, I'm able to sell it for that agreed upon price. And I think this is where the confusion came in the debate, is with those puts. I'm buying something and forcing somebody else to buy the stock. So I would be owning the underlying stock and worry about it going down. I pay this premium, I buy this put option. That put option forces somebody else to buy the stock from me. So there's two buys in there where the call is easier to understand, I think. Is that clear?
Yeah, that helps clear it up a little bit.
Good. So I've already kind of talked about in, out, and at the money. At the money, we've hit our strike price. That was $50, it's hit $50, whatever the underlying asset is. Whichever call or put I'm at, strike price is called at the money. The exercise price is whatever the stock price is right now in this moment. So we've hit our price. Let's go to a call option for ease of understanding in and out of the money. So in the money, it's exceeded the strike price. So my strike price was $50. I purchased the right to buy this stock at $50, and now it's selling for $55. Awesome, I'm making money, $5 per share, minus whatever the cost of my premium was. Out of the money, I'm not going to exercise this. I'm gonna lose money at it. I might be able to sell my option for less than I bought it, but I'm not gonna exercise it because I can't exercise it. I haven't hit the strike price. So we've got these riders. So that's the person that is creating the option, and then somebody else is buying. We talked about the naked and covered options. I'm probably going to be naked if I'm buying a call option. If I sell a call option, I'm saying somebody has the right to purchase this stock from me for a specified price. If I don't own that underlying stock and it goes up to $1 billion, I have to pay $1 billion per share for that stock. So whatever it is, I have to go out on the market and buy it. So if I'm doing a naked call, meaning I'm the writer, the one that sold that premium to somebody else so they have the right to buy from me, if I'm naked, I have to go out in the market and buy the stock at whatever it's selling for, and then sell it to the person that bought my option at whatever that strike price is, whatever we agreed upon in our contract. So there's the high risk for the call side. For the put side, it's going to be a little bit different. The writer of the put, if I'm naked, I have to go out in the market and buy this stock that's selling low, and I get to sell it at a higher price. It wouldn't make sense for me to do it in that case. Typically, if I'm the one writing the put, I own the underlying asset, and I'm doing so to protect myself from loss. So seeing what we can get, always two sides to each of these exchanges. And I don't know whose stock I'm getting. Am I getting it from Chris? Am I getting it from Susie? It doesn't matter to me. I'm just going into this open forum exchange, the options chain, and I'm saying I want this much. And I can do this through Fidelity, through Vanguard, whatever, where they're gonna require you to go through some short training because this is risky. And if you do this in your own accounts, don't do it in a taxable account because we have those potential different tax implications for an option, where I might be paying short-term capital gain, it might be ordinary income, it might just be added to my basis. I might be long-term capital gain. So depending on where we're at in the transaction, it's gonna be taxed different ways. I say to avoid that, and plus because it's risky, I'm typically doing this because I wanna make money and this is a higher risk method to do that. I'm gonna do it in a tax advantaged account. Ideally a Roth, because it's growing tax-free and I think I'm gonna make more money by taking on additional risk. The options and commodities are not something you're typically gonna do for your clients. For them, you're more likely to be creating that diversified portfolio that meets their risk capacity, how much can they afford to potentially lose, their risk tolerance, when are they gonna freak out, and then those different goals that they would have and what their time horizon is for those different goals. So for a call, if I am buying this option, here we've got this $15 a share. It's an expensive option. So I'm paying $15. That is the absolute most I could possibly lose. I'm not going to exercise it if I'm out of the money. I might try to sell that, and maybe I can sell it for $5 or something, and then I only lose 10. But I'm not going to be able to make money unless it goes and hits the strike price, or I'm gonna basically even out. So here we've got that $65. The most I buying the option can lose is the price of the premium. My profit, unlimited, depending on where the stock goes, I'm buying it at my strike price. Here's $65. For the person that sold it to me, the most they can possibly gain is the premium. The most they can lose if they're naked is even more than it would be if they were covered. So kind of easy to see their premium that is received, they keep that $15. That's theirs forever. Then depending on what happens to the underlying stock, maybe they have to sell something they already own to me. Now it's their basis in it, and we can look at the difference. I would look at it as paper profits. I never made that money anyway. With the naked rider, where I didn't own the underlying stock, I have to go out in the market and buy the stock for $65 a share, $80 a share, whatever it's selling for, and then sell it to the person that bought it for $65 a share. So always a mirror image when we're looking at the two. Same thing for puts, but now instead we have the right to sell. So now you see that the writer is receiving the premium and the buyer has potential to gain and they're paying the premium in order to potentially get that. So mirror image, just like with calls. You want to spend more time on options? What do you want to go on?
Commodities, for me at least.
Okay. So commodities, exam 3, I asked for different types of commodities with a specific example within. So I did still count on that exam, like if you put, some people put grains, oil seeds, they put corn, soybeans, multiple things coming from one section. What I was looking for was energy, metals, softs, livestock, the bigger categories, and then drilling into one specifically to say lumber would be an example of this. The idea behind commodities is it's fungible. So a gallon, or maybe not a gallon, a gallon of milk is a gallon of milk. It doesn't matter if it comes from Brazil or Iowa or Nebraska, wherever in the world it comes from, a gallon of milk is a gallon of milk. We should probably specify cow milk or something like that, but it's the same everywhere. Same thing with oil, a gallon of oil, a gallon of gas, a pound, a kilogram of gold, copper, whatever, it's the same no matter where we get it. So they're interchangeable. So a commodity is this good, this specific good that it doesn't matter which exact orange I get or which bar of gold or whatever it is. We're saying they are all the same. So for the futures contract, this one's going to be more risky because it has to be closed. The options, I never have to exercise that option if it doesn't hit the strike price, if I'm going to lose money on it. at most, I'm losing the premium. For the commodities, I'm paying a premium called a margin, and I'm out that. But I also have to somehow close the contract. Now, whether I'm gonna take 1,000 head of cattle personally, probably not, but I'm gonna sell that contract off to somebody at the end. Somebody is taking delivery of the cattle, or of the gold, or of the copper, or the lumber, whatever it is we're talking about. So the futures contract, we are similar to the options. We are looking ahead at something, and I'm going out to this soybean farmer, and I'm saying, hey, I'll give you $1 a bushel right now. In exchange, you're gonna sell me a certain number of bushels, 100 bushels of soybeans for $4 a bushel. So I give them $1 a bushel now for each of those 100 bushels. So here's $100, and then at harvest time, so we'll have a specified date of something that makes sense. We're not gonna try to take delivery of soybeans or force them to deliver soybeans to us at a time when they're still growing or can't grow. So it's lined up with that season for soybeans. So whatever it is that we're getting into, lumber, gold, we have this is exactly when I need to receive it. So we've got a date for this to be closed. I'm the speculator. I'm the guy in Chicago that's saying, I bet soybean futures are gonna be great, so I'm gonna pay these farmers this margin right now, and they're gonna use that contract plus the margin to go to the bank. The contract, they can show that to the banker and say, hey, I'm gonna be able to sell this for this much. I wanna borrow some money so that I can hire workers to plant the crops, to buy the seed, to get the machinery, to get the whatever. And then at the end of the season, same thing to harvest the crop, or whatever it is we're getting into. So they are hedging. I'm speculating that this is going to be able to sell for more than $4 a bushel by the time I take delivery. They are hedging their loss. They're saying that I don't know what it's gonna be in the future. We did the East of Eden example where the farmers last year sold it for $4 per bushel and expected it to be the same or worse this year. They were able to get this contract that paid them $1 now, $4 later. So they're getting $5 a bushel, and they're feeling very happy about that at the time. Sour grapes later, but that's life. And then the speculator is saying, I'm gonna take this risk, I'm gonna give you a little bit of money now, and then I'll pay this agreed upon price later. And I'm doing that because I hope that I can sell it for more than my total outlay. And we're gonna throw some time value money in there as well, because I had to give you the $1 today, or whatever that margin was. So we're doing this because we think that the price is gonna be different than expected right now. So if I'm long, I think it's gonna go up. If it's short, I think the price is gonna go down from what it is. So I can do this on either side, just like I can do the options with calls and puts. Margin is what I mentioned. That's the exact same thing as the premium. We just call it something different. So I'm paying that small amount in order to seal the deal for this contract. Small margin requirement relative to some of our other ways that we can get into this. But then the risk comes with, I have to close that contract. I have to come up with the $100,000 or the whatever. So it's gonna be a bigger ask of me at the end. This contract has to be closed. The options, I can just not exercise it. The commodities futures contract, that has to be closed at some point. I'm probably not taking delivery of whatever this commodity is. I'm probably selling the contract off to somebody that needs 1,000 head of cattle for a beef packing plant, whatever it is, but I'm not taking delivery of it. But I do have to close the contract. There's no way I can get out of it. I say no way, I could probably declare bankruptcy or flee the country, something. But the contract has to be closed. Do you want to go to the East of Eden example?
Is there gonna be a question on it?
Specifically on East of Eden? I mean, last time I had y'all give me an example of how this would be applied, and most people that did it used the East of Eden example.
Sure.
So good. Alright. So, kinda mentioned this earlier, oh, I thought it was $4 a bushel. So last year, farmers were able to sell their soybeans for $5 a bushel. They expect this year that it's gonna be maybe even worse. We've got our hero Cal, he's our speculator, and he thinks it's gonna be more than $5. And because the farmers think it's only going to be max $5, he's like, hey, I'll give you $1 per bushel now, and then at the end of the season, I'll give you $4 and I'll take delivery of all your soybeans. All the risk is on me. You know you've got a buyer in me. You know I'm gonna try to make money with it. I'm gonna try to do something. The farmers think he's wrong, so they happily take his dollar margin today. In exchange, they are agreeing to deliver their harvest, however many bushels we've agreed upon, in October. So the soybean season. So farmers now know, cool, I've hedged my loss. I'm not gonna lose money this year. I thought I would be lucky to get $5 per bushel. Now, not only am I getting $5 per bushel, time value of money, I'm getting $1 of that right now. So they're thinking they're ahead of the game throughout this deal until Cal is able to sell it for $10 a bushel because, and historically, the Navy came by their California coast. They needed food for their hungry sailors, so they bought the soybeans at $10 a bushel. So Cal was able to make $5 profit because he spent a total of $5. Add the time value money into that, it's not quite $5 because he had to pay the $1 up front. But the $4 upon delivery, he's paying that, like here's the 10, here's 4 of that, here's the 10, here's 4 of that from the Navy. So he's able to do that all at once. No time delay there. So only out of pocket the original dollar margin. Farmers were able to sell for more than they expected to be able to sell for. Cal luckily was right. So he speculated he would have been out all those dollars. He was working hard throughout the year while the soybeans were growing so that he'd be able to pay the $4 at the end. But now he is sitting pretty because he is able to make a $5 per bushel profit. And there's our Dr. Seuss quote. Y'all learned so much. All right, what more on commodities? Other topics you want to go over? Any math? It's your special day.
I mean, for me, it was just the options I was struggling with.
Okay.
Are we gonna be doing any math for the options? Like, I don't know, you have that one graph up of.
No math for the options.
This is what
I've had people write or draw the art showing they recognize that mirror image. But this one, no.
more or less just understanding it.
Understanding what options are. I won't ask you to do the math. Understand that the price of the premium is going to be based on the value of the underlying asset. Be able to define what an option is and how you could make money with options or lose money. Other topics?
I mean, on the like taxable equivalent, oh my goodness, taxable equivalent yield thing, are we gonna be doing the 2-part question, or is it just gonna be?
Yeah, you might. Most people were able to do that last time. You did Alpha Trainer Sharp, I think, twice. So, yeah, I would do the bonds question and some sort of time value of money. It won't be exactly the same as last time, but the setup would. The things people tended to miss on the bond calculation was for the taxable equivalent yield. It's first step, same yield to maturity calculation that you do for the corporate bond, and then you take that yield and divide it by 1 minus whatever tax that the investor is going to be paying. So people skip directly to that they say, here's the coupon rate, I'll just call that the yield, and then divided that by the tax. Making sure you line up payment with either present value or future value. With bonds, it's money coming to me, so I'm receiving the coupon payment, and then I receive the future value, the face value at the end, so those should line up. Those should both be positive, they're coming to me. Where the price I pay, dollars out of my pocket, that's negative. And then the time value of money was opposite, because you were saving for the future. You had an account with, I think, $4,000 in it, and then you're adding dollars monthly. So you needed to be in 12 periods per year for that, and you had to have my present value, $4,000 in this account as positive, and then the $300 I'm putting in every month as positive as well. And then my future value is gonna come out negative, but conceptually I understand that it's money I've earned. And you can flip that. You can make PV and payment negative, and then have your future value come out positive. Whatever way works for you, just recognize that PV and FV always have to be opposite, and the payment needs to line up with conceptually where it would go. If I'm, like with the bond, receiving the coupon payments and then receiving the face value, payment and future value line up. When I'm investing for the future, my present value, I started out with a little bit of a nest egg, and it was being invested, plus my periodic additions. Maybe it won't be monthly for the final, but same setup. Other things, more on that, examples? Alright, I could just start at the beginning and start talking. You know why we invest? To make money. With this, I'll kinda go through real quickly. The big thing I want you to be able to take out of the class is understanding how to create a diversified portfolio and why you want to create that diversified portfolio. So we create a diversified portfolio because we can reduce the risk that we have to take. If we put all of our investments in a single thing, we've got a lot of risk there. And maybe it does well. Maybe we put it all in NVIDIA and it went up 1,000% and we made lots of money. We're looking at investing for the long term, and it's gonna fluctuate. I will have fewer large fluctuations. Some years it will go down, but hopefully generally it goes up. I'll have less volatility if I have a diversified portfolio. So you drew that chart, you had the 12 to 15 different assets that would diversify away the unsystematic risk while we accepted the systematic risk. So that's the big thing I want you to take away from the class. I want you to know some of those measures of, on a risk-adjusted basis, did I outperform the market? So we had Alpha, Trainer, and Sharp that helped us figure out if we compare it to the S&P 500 or whatever our beta was, the beta of the market was, did we take on more risk than we needed in order to get this return? So instead of just comparing, I got an 8% return and the market had a 9% return, I lost out. Well, maybe it was appropriate. Maybe I took on less risk because I'm approaching retirement and this is what fits for me. So maybe on a risk-adjusted basis, I actually outperformed the market. So understanding how diversification is going to help you reduce risk and meet your long-term goals, and all those intermediate goals as well. Thinking about the different ways we can diversify with taxes. So we had our magical HSA, the high deductible health savings account, where it's pre-tax dollars that grow tax-free. And then we had our more commonly talked about tax advantaged accounts, where you had the traditional or Roth version of an IRA or a 401k. With the Roth, I'm putting after-tax dollars in, so I've already paid taxes, and that grows tax-free. The government's not gonna get that. So that's where I wanna put my riskiest stuff, because that risk-return relationship, if I'm taking on additional risk, it's because I expect additional return. So I want my riskiest stuff in the Roth. Our other tax advantage, the traditional 401k or the traditional IRA, I'm deducting what I put in. Assuming I qualify with the traditional IRA, I could do a non-deductible contribution. You'll get into that in retirement, but let's say we're qualified for it, it's a 401k, I put those dollars in there. It reduces my taxable income today, but then the dollars I take out, I'm paying ordinary income on. Dollars beyond my basis. With the taxable account, I'm paying short or long-term capital gains. Short and long-term capital gains don't apply to anything except the taxable account. You know, our retirement accounts, doesn't matter. I'm not paying taxes while it lives in there, so I can buy and sell and do whatever I want within the account. I can receive dividends, and it's not going to be a taxable event for me. In the taxable account, all of that is. So I want to strategically, if I'm going to sell something from the taxable account, ideally I've held it for at least a year, so I'm paying long-term capital gain rather than short-term capital gain that's going to be my ordinary income, whatever my tax rate is. Different ways we can buy in the market. We talked about the regulations in the market. Sarbanes-Oxley brought in the outside auditor and the CFO, CEO. Basically every executive has to say, I know what's going on with these accounting things. They can't just claim ignorance. So they can be held personally liable. But that brought in the independent outside auditor to ensure that we can trust these numbers, and we were able to see those in Edgar with notes. So if the accountant disagrees with whatever the report is or wants to add context to something, they can put those notes in. Those only apply, the outside auditor only comes in for the annual report. So when we look at the quarterly, when we look at some of the other reports, that's just the company itself doing them. But I can get them more recent versus having to wait a year, depending on when they file it. Other ones, so you see the IPO there, we had our 1933 and 1934 Acts, 1933 dealing with the initial public offerings. Initial public offering, more risky than something that's been around for a while. We now have, because of that 1933 Act, there's the shelf registration, so I can look at all the financial information for this company, recognizing the risk with Theranos, where their numbers were fantastic. They had the contracts with Walgreens, with CVS, with the drugstores for their blood analysis, just finger prick something and then it would analyze for all these different diseases. Sounded amazing, but the actual product, the science wasn't there. They couldn't do what they claimed they could do. That didn't show up in the financials because on paper they looked great. With that IPO, I mentioned the shelf registration, so the information is publicly available to anybody that might be interested in buying or not this stock, but they can learn more about the company and make that decision and figure out how much they'd be willing to pay for it. The company itself, probably not an expert in initial public offerings, so they usually go through an investment banker or group of, and they will put together all the things that are needed, all the filings, all the paperwork to make this go through. And they're gonna do this on either a best effort or guaranteed basis. Best effort means I'm gonna try my best to sell the however many shares we've determined should be sold at whatever price we've determined should be sold to the public. Best effort means that if I don't sell all, let's say, 1 million shares that the goal was to sell, so we created 1 million shares of this company to be sold to the public, and we only sold 900,000 of them. If I did best efforts, if I'm that investment banker, well, now the company has to eat the additional 100,000, they have to buy those. If I instead do guaranteed, that means that I only sell 900,000 shares, I gotta buy those additional 100,000 shares. So there's some motivation for me to be just under the accurate price. So I wanna just undersell because I want this stuff to be sold. I don't wanna have to go out in the market when I'm doing the guaranteed. If I'm doing the best effort, maybe I'm not as biased or conflicted. And then the 1934, that was when we could require all the current publicly traded companies to file their annual 10Ks and all those different reports. That may be dropping to every 6 months instead of quarterly. Their quarterly reports. Time value of money, kind of mentioned the big things there. Objectives and goals, we want to match our portfolio to what the clients are trying to do, and we need to know what type of accounts they have access to. So I can't try to recommend an HSA to somebody who doesn't have access to an HSA. If they don't have a Roth 401k through their work, I can't recommend they go to a Roth 401k. I have to be up to date on the amounts that I can contribute to different accounts. So I can't tell you to put $10,000 into a Roth IRA if you're 40 years old, because you can only put 7,000. We've got some catch-up contributions for older, but I need to know all those things and what they have access to in order to create that diversified portfolio. Just like in counseling, I want to know what their dollars are doing. So the balance sheet is their net worth. Assets minus liabilities is their net worth. I want to know everything they have and what debts they have. Because if I'm going to create some investments for them or do something else, if they've got all this credit card debt, I say let's tackle that first and get a guaranteed 22% return on that rather than trying to put it all into your retirement account. Maybe a mix of building up emergency funds. Income statement, that's cash flows, the dollars coming in, the dollars going out. I want to know how they're spending their money, maybe some ways that we can help them with that, and I want to know what dollars are coming in. As a CFP, I'm probably not going to be helping them find a new job or something like that. That'd be more a financial counselor, but I want to see where they're at with their dollars and figure out ways to help them. Capital gains and losses, we talked about the losses offsetting gains. We talked about the difference between long and short term capital losses or gains. With the long term, that's what we want to go for. That's only 15%, potentially 0 if you have very low income, potentially 20 if you've got 400,000 plus income. But for the most part, thinking 15% for long-term capital gain. Short-term capital gain is going to be whatever you're paying. It's going to be treated as if it's ordinary income for you. So we're paying higher taxes for that, which is why the arbitrage, the day traders tend to lose money. If you're going to do something like that, do it in an account where taxes are not going to eat away at any potential gains you might make. Tax shelters I already talked about. Efficient markets, we had the idea of there are weak, semi-strong, and strong forms of the market. We look at the United States market as semi-strong, where if I have insider information, I could consistently beat the market. We have laws in place that are designed to stop those things, but we also see that politicians regularly beat the market because they do have access to insider information. There's not really any punishment for them exercising that. Strong form says we can't beat the market even with that insider information, and the idea there is it's reflected so quickly in the prices. We're a developed nation. We've had stock markets around a long time and it's still viewed as semi-strong. So I don't know where you would find that hypothetical strong form of the market where all information is publicly available. But it's, I would say, more theoretical. The weak form of the market might only exist in a developing economy. Active versus passive. Active, they are creating a mutual fund that is actively designed, meaning they are putting thought into what goes into the mutual fund and what gets sold. Whatever rebalancing they do, whatever underlying companies they invest in, they've got a team of experts that's deciding what to put into or take out of this account, what to keep, and they may have to hire experts in specific fields that do traveling and things like that. So the fees on the active account will be higher than on a passive account. A passive account is an index fund, and there's lots of different indexes out there. It could be a bond index fund, it could be the S&P 500. It could be within a specific sector. An index fund is going to say, here's this existing index, we're gonna try and copy it. Most, Fidelity, Vanguard, you can get these index funds for either 0 fees or very low fees to hold them. A combination of passive funds is a great way to help your clients. Those fees are one thing that are easier to control. So for eValuator, you saw like that was I know what that is. I know what fee they're gonna charge for this. The other things, I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but I know what the fee is for this fund. You've drawn this a couple times, you'll need to do that again. The mistake I saw sometimes was people were not telling me what the takeaway was for this. And the takeaway is, if I have that 10 to 15, 12 to 15 different types of securities, and they're different types of securities, they're not all positively correlated or negatively correlated. I've got a mix of different sectors, I'm exposed to different areas of the market. I can reduce my unsystematic risk. Systematic risk, I'm just taking on, that's those primes, know what each of those things, PRIMES, stand for, and what we're doing with that. We are over time, but I'm happy to hang out, doesn't look like anybody's coming for the next class. Anything else? All right, well done.
I have to go record a video.
Okay.